Hello my friends, today I'm reviewing a camera I've never reviewed before. Now you can probably figure out what that camera is unless you make a habit of clicking on YouTube videos with your eyes closed. Yes, it is the Insta360 X5, and the reason I've never reviewed a camera like this before, well, it's because I've always seen these cameras as sort of a bit of a novelty, sort of a gimmick, you know, the kind of things that you use to show yourself riding your bike on a tiny little planet. When Insta360 sent me this camera for review, the very first thing I thought to myself was, what the hell am I going to do with this thing? And that is specifically what I'm going to spend the rest of this video trying to answer. The goal of this video is not to impress you or to convince you to buy an X5. No, it's to convince me to buy one. I'll admit that this camera is intimidating. I mean, it just does so much that it's like, where do you even begin? But in the week that I had it, I tried to use it in every conceivable way that I thought possible. Whether it won me over or not, well, you're just gonna have to stick around and find out. Okay, so for users of the X3 and X4, you're probably curious about how those cameras compare to the X5. And I strayed away from making this an X4 versus X5 comparison video for a load of reasons that I just simply don't have time to cover here. What I really want to focus on is what the X5 can do and how it's more than just a novelty camera. On the outset, yes, it looks like a niche product, but what I've learned is that really, it's quite the opposite. Now, this is more or less a camera system that everyone can benefit from using, more or less. Now, I'm going to spend some time talking about the best uses of a 360 camera like this and some of the innovations unique to the X5. I'll also look at sort of what I really liked about this camera, as well as some of the things that really challenged me. But before that, the hit list.
The X5 sports new, larger 1.128 sensors capturing more light than the X4 for improved clarity, low light performance, and 13.5 stops of dynamic range. For the first time ever, a 360-degree camera is paired with 3 AI chips for a 140% increase in overall computing power. The X5 lenses feature an ultra-hard coating, making them their most durable ever. But if you do damage them, you can quickly replace them with fresh ones all by yourself. No worrying about scratches, and no waiting for repairs. The new 2400 mAh battery offers up to 185 minutes of recording at 5.7K in smart power-saving endurance mode, a 30% improvement over the X4. Plus, fast charging gets you to 80% in just 20 minutes. A first for 360-degree cameras, the X5 features an innovative multi-layer steel mesh wind guard that effectively silences wind noise and reducing the need to buy an additional accessory. And lastly, the X5 goes deeper than any camera before with IP68 waterproofing up to 15 meters with no dive case needed, a 50% improvement over the X4. All this and so much more with the Insta360 X5.
Okay, I'm gonna sit down for a second here. Let's start with filmmakers, because being one, I can tell you that we can be a bit of a fussy bunch, sometimes unreasonably so. When it comes to the X5, it certainly provides you access or shot options that would be very expensive or impossible with the cinema camera. Now, it's not gonna compete with the optical quality of a wide-angle lens on a dedicated cinema camera, but for crash cameras, probe lens style shots, underwater, or any situation in which you can't rig or operate a camera, well, its image quality is quite good, and depending on the situation, can even be great. The big appeal of 360 cameras in traditional filmmaking is that you can choose the camera angle in post, and even get 2, 3, or 4 angles from the very same shot. You can also animate moves however you like after you've recorded the footage. So depending on your quality constraints, this could be a significant time saver over having to do take after take and trying to get the timing right on a camera move, or multiple takes for multiple angles. It's not without its hurdles, however, despite its impressive quoted dynamic range of 13.5 stops. I suspect the 13.5 stops are really only in existence in the 5.7K mode, not 8K, through either shooting iLog or in the HDR mode. Spitting that 5.7K out to a flat image that then you can use lowers that effective resolution even further. The lower the resolution, once exported, may make it difficult to match some cinematic scenes taken from regular cinema or video cameras. Let's now move on to travel, and this is a pretty broad category. I could even really wrap in action sports with this, and that makes this really the largest user group of this camera. And I've said this in videos before, that the best camera you can have for travel is often the one that is the very most discreet. What makes the X5 the ideal travel camera is that once I extend my embarrassing selfie stick in the middle of a busy area, I know I'm getting everything around me and I can decide what to use later. I don't have to stand somewhere trying to get all the action in every direction, and this is just so much better for time and much better for optics. Without the selfie stick, the camera also very conveniently fits in a pocket. There are also so many areas that have strict no drone policies, and you typically can't fly drones over people or traffic, so this is the safer and more legal-friendly alternative. For hydrophiles out there, the camera is entirely waterproof without a case up to 15 meters, and an additional dive case will take that much further to an astonishing 50 meters. So one of the very, if not the best option for recreational snorkeling and diving. And viewers of this channel will know that I'm not the most gentle with things, especially when it comes to action cameras and the like. So I'm very appreciative of how noticeably rugged the body is. But for a first-time 360-degree camera user, I was immediately afraid that I would destroy these lenses in really under a day. While I have been extremely cautious with this camera, keeping it in its soft shell case like this when I'm not using it, I am quite impressed with the resilience of these lenses, and they are brand new lenses. They are more scratch resistant over the X4. But the big news, however, is that for the first time, the lenses are swappable. So if you toast one on your adventures, you can buy a replacement and quickly replace them on your own. Now that being said, in my time with the camera, I did manage to get one little mark and one little scratch on one of the lenses. And I really have no idea how that happened. But it's good to know that when I hand it back to them, they can just swap it out. The next user group that I can really see getting a lot of use out of the X5 are musicians. So whether you're a musician or specifically a band, it can be laborious at times to try to continually generate content for social media, etc. And that's where the X5 makes it really simple and easy. Since I'm in the band, I can't operate the camera, which is kind of the point. By putting musicians in the round with the 360 in the center, we only need to do 1 or 2 takes and we're done. In post, I can either animate the video or select 3 camera angles and then edit a video as though it was filmed by 3 separate cameras. No camera operator, one and done. The next great thing about it for musicians is that the X5 shows a noticeable improvement in low light over the X4. Typically, action cameras just don't do well in dim interiors, which rules out many places where musicians can or would perform. But this was shot in the 8K Pure Video mode, specifically tuned for excellent low-light performance. I did do a test with the Pure Video mode against shooting manually with the lowest ISO settings, and here are the results. The next user group that stands out to me are going to be motorists, because in the X5 now we have what's called road mode, which is basically turning the X5 into a dash cam. It's going to allow you to record an infinite loop of a predetermined time. With a solid suction, car, or bike mount, this can be a very useful device, especially for motorcycles or even cyclists. From a safety or insurance perspective, you have a lot of video evidence if any type of accident occurs. Naturally, there are many other great uses for this camera, even notably doing HDRI capture for VFX work, but the people that already do that, you guys know that already. So I want to spend the rest of the time just discussing what it's like to work with the apps for this device and working with the footage in general. When I began to research this product and get familiar with 360-degree cameras and looking at the X4, a lot of reviewers and commenters or tutorials around the X4 would say how great the mobile app was and how powerful it was. And it really does so much. But I can tell you that as somebody with a learning disability, it actually does too much. To me, it feels a bit overwhelming and confusing. It is redesigned for the X5 and it is intended to help users pump out quick clips for social media. But its options and layout feel very busy and paralyzing with a lot of options. Moving over to the Insta360 Studio, my nerves calmed considerably. The desktop studio is exactly how I needed it to be. Very obvious layout, very intuitive UX. I didn't require any tutorial or instructions. The mobile app and the studio software are critical interfaces that need to be used to process the files into a flat image that you can use in your video. There are plugins for most NLEs, including native support for 360 footage in Final Cut. Skipping the studio may seem convenient, but I found the software to be so intuitive that I think using it would be the most expedient for most of the time. But I could be wrong. You should really do your own research because I just ran out of time. Now, the caveat, of course, is that I know that I've become much more familiar with the mobile app over time, and my frustration is due mostly to my neurodivergence as well as just the unfamiliarity with the app. And I will admit that I use the mobile app very often as a trigger for mobile shooting, as a mobile monitor, as well as just quickly exporting clips on the go. So it's really, really useful for that, and I can't imagine using the product without the mobile app. Okay, let's wrap this up. Has this week convinced me to buy or use a camera like the X5? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Would I use it on a film or commercial project? Well, I think if the situation called for it, yes. It certainly opens up a lot of creative options. Now, would I use it as a travel camera? Absolutely. In fact, I would use it much more than my cell phone or an actual action camera. I do recommend that if you buy the X5 that you do take the opportunity at the very same time to buy a couple replacement lenses. Even if you're not as hard on your gear as I am, once you scratch a lens, that scratch may be so apparent that really you can't shoot anything with that camera angle or that lens until you replace it, and having that lens handy just keeps you shooting. And if you already have an X3 or X4, then I do believe that this camera is a very worthy upgrade. The new technology in this really stands out, and I think you'll be really impressed moving up to this model. And if you've never used a 360-degree camera before, like me, then I actually do believe that most people would benefit by having a great camera like this. It's certainly much more useful than a lot of other similar type of gadgets that usually just end up collecting dust in a bin, use it once or twice, and then sort of never again. And that is it, my friends. For me, for now, I'm out. Peace.